In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how you can do linear programming using Excel. So the first thing that you need to know how to do is how to copy a row. So I have a row. This would be in row 5. The numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so I want to copy that down here in row 7. So here's how we do it. Highlight, left click on your mouse and hold it, and highlight the cells that you want to copy something to. Then hit the equal sign. Now take the mouse and left click on the one, hold it down and highlight all of that. All right, now here's the important part. Instead of hitting enter, you're going to hit shift Control Enter all at the same time. That is the key. Shift Control Enter, and it copies that entire row down to where you want it. So let's say we want to copy it again. Let's say I want to copy row 5 onto row 8. Let's do it again. So I'm going to highlight where I want it to go. Okay. Click equal. Then highlight the entire row that I want to copy, and then shift Control Enter. There you go. It's just as easy as that. The key to remember is that when you are highlighting the cells where you want to copy to, make sure you left click and hold it down and highlight all the cells you want to copy to. Then hit equal sign. Now when you hit the equal sign, notice that all of this is still highlighted. If for some reason all of these cells are not highlighted, then you did something wrong. Go back and try it again. And then click what you want to copy, and then shift Control Enter. There you go. Okay, once you've got that down, let's try multiplying a row by a non-zero number. So this is one of our row operations. So let's say I want to take row 12, and I want to multiply it by 3, and I want to rewrite it at row 13. So basically I'm taking row 12, okay, row 12, multiplying it by 3, and then rewriting it down here on row 13. So the way I do that is the same way that we started up here. The left click where you want to copy to, highlight the entire thing, hit the equal sign. Now we're going to multiply the above row by 3. So I'm going to 3, and then we use the asterisk for multiplication, asterisk, and now we're going to go up to the row that we want to multiply by 3. And so just like when we copied up here, left click on the one, hold it down, and highlight the entire row. And so what's going to happen now when we shift Control Enter is we have now taken every number in row 12 and multiplied it by 3 and rewritten it at row 13. Let's try it again. At row 14, I'm going to take row 12. So let's say we want to multiply row 12 by a -5, and we want to put it in row 14. Highlight row 14, equal sign, and we want to multiply by a -5, so -5, asterisk for times, and now we go up, left click on the row we want to multiply by, and hold it down, highlight the whole thing, and then shift Control Enter. There we go. And you can even do decimals. Let's say we want to take row 14, the one we just did, and we want to multiply it by 0.25, and we want to put it at row 15. So I'm going to highlight row 15 equals, then 0.25 times row 14. So left click on the first number there, hold it down, highlight the entire thing, and then shift Control Enter. There we go. All right, so that's one of our row operations. And the other row operation is multiplying a row by a non-zero multiple of another row. So let me get rid of this. Don't need that there right now. So I have two rows, right? And so if we were doing some type of Gauss-Jordan elimination, and let's say we were looking at the 1 and the 9, and let's just say that 1 perhaps was our pivot. So if 1 was our pivot, and I wanted to make 9 a 0, what would I do to that? Well, I would probably take 9 times row 1 and then add it or subtract row 2. Or we actually like to do the pivot row last. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do row 20, it is actually row 20 minus 9 times row 19. And I'm going to rewrite that down here at row 22. So I'm going to highlight row 22 equals, so we always start by highlighting the cells where we want to move something to or copy something to. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to take row 20, and then I'm going to go minus 9 times, and then we're going to highlight row 19. So we're using 2 rows in this, and now Shift, Control, Enter. And so you can see what happened here. 0, 9 minus 9 times 1 is 0. 8 minus 2 times 9, 2 times 9 is 18. 8 minus 18 is a negative 10. And so you can see that all the way down. Okay, let's just do something kind of random. Let's take in row 23, highlight it, equals, let's do 10 times row 19. So 10 times, highlight row 19, and then plus 3 times row 20. Okay. And now Shift, Control, Enter. And so we took 10 times row 1, which would have been 10, times 3 times 9, which is 27. 27 and 10 is 37. And you can check that all the way down. All right. So let's just do one more. Let's go to let's copy into row 21. Okay, row 21, highlight it, equal. Let's take row 23. I'm going to take row 23 minus 9.5 times row 19. You can do this with any rows you want. I'm just kind of doing it randomly. Shift, Control, Enter. And there we go. All right, so the 3 basic operations are knowing how to copy a row, how to multiply a row by a non-zero number, and how to multiply a row by a multiple of another row. If you can do those 3 things, then putting it all together, you can do a linear programming problem using Excel. So in this example, let us just pretend that this is our initial table. And we've already determined that 5 is our pivot. So what we need to do is we need to clear the X column. We need to turn 2 into a 0, 3 into a 0, negative 5 into a 0. So let's do this using Excel. First thing, I'm going to copy my headings up here. So I want them to go down here in row 33. So I'm going to highlight row 33, equals, go up to what I want to copy, and then Shift, Control, Enter. The other thing I like to do is I like to copy my pivot row. So my pivot row is the 3rd row, so that would be here. Highlight it, equal, and let's just copy that. Shift, Control, Enter. Now notice it doesn't copy the formatting. It doesn't copy the fact that the cell up here was highlighted yellow. Now we need to turn 2 into a 0 using this 5? Well, I'm going to use the least common multiple. So I'm going to highlight the cell I want to change, the first row, and so that's going to be equal. So what do I want to do? I want to do 5 times the row I want to change minus 2 times my pivot row. And then Shift Control Enter. And you know you did it right, or you can be pretty sure you did it right if you got a 0 where you wanted the 0. Now, one other thing is if I click anywhere on this row here, you can see a row operation up here. 5 times that row minus 2 times that row. And so the B28 to I28, that's the row. So that was the B28, which was from here to here. All right, so now we need to turn 3 into a 0. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to copy. We want to change this, highlight it, equal. And so I'm going to go 5 times the row I'm changing, row 2, minus 3 times the pivot row. Shift Control Enter, and I got my 0. The nice thing about this is if you do the row operation correctly, you get the zeros in here, you can be pretty sure that you didn't make any arithmetic mistakes in the rest of this. And now the -5 needs to be turned into a 0. So highlight the row I want to change, equals, and that's going to be easy. I'm just going to take that row and I'm going to add it to that row, the pivot row. Shift Control Enter. All right, that cleared that particular column. And so that's how we can use Excel to make this much, much easier. I'll just go a little bit further with this because clearly we can see that the bottom row here has a negative in it, so we're not done. So let me just do a couple more examples. Let's see, so my active variables are R, S, T became X, and P. So let's see how quickly this can go. All right, so I'm going to equal, copy my headings, Shift Control Enter. Now, what's my pivot going to be? The largest negative number in the bottom is a -2. We want a positive number. So 13, 130 divided by 13 is 10. 10 divided by 1 is 10. So it's a tie. So we could go with either one of these. So I could either use the 13 or the 1. If you have a choice, it's always easiest to use the 1. But I'm not going to. I'm going to use the harder one. I'm going to use 13 as my pivot. All right. I'm not going to be able to. Yes, I can. So 13 is my pivot, and that's in the first row. So I'm going to copy the first row, highlight, equal, highlight the first row, Shift Control Enter. Now the second row, I need to turn -23 into a 0. Well, the least common multiple 13, 23 is just multiply them by each other. So highlight the row I want to change, equal, and let's take 13 times the row I'm changing. And since the signs are different, I'm going to add plus 23 times the pivot row. Shift Control Enter. I got my 0. The 1. All right, highlight this. So it looks like I'm going to say equals 13 times that third row and minus the pivot row. And then finally, the -2 has to become a 0. So highlight the bottom row, equals, well, -2 and 13, let's just multiply them by each other. So I'm going to go 13 times that row. Signs are different, so plus 2 times this row. And Shift, Control, Enter, and that row is cleared. And we seem to be done with our problem because we have no negative numbers in the bottom. And my new active variables, of course, are going to be Z, S, X, and P. All right, well, I hope this was helpful.